TS here, and today we're going to be breaking down Shxrk and how he managed to win yet another solo tournament, this time being the solo PlayStation Cup. Now, I want to make sure I got a solo VOD review out before the solo series started, and it should start tomorrow for you guys. I wanted to make sure I VOD reviewed the best solo gameplay I could find, so I spent days going through replays, and this is the most fundamentally sound game I could find. So, this game starts off in a very, very weird way, with Shxrk getting absolutely cooked on his drop. And so he's forced to swerve, and this game is about as bad as a game can start. We are landing on 2 floor spawns and a chest, and we are going to somehow manage to get 3rd place with 9 kills. So how does Shxrk manage to do this? First, he gets very lucky with the player Kanye. Now, I can't tell you how to pronounce this guy's name, but what I can tell you is he committed the cardinal sin of Fortnite, and that is overheating because you get a dopamine rush when you do damage. This player just hit Shxrk for 45 white. What he could very easily do is gatekeep Shxrk, keep looking with his AR, and force Shxrk to rotate away from this drop. Play the game shambles while this player is able to control all of Shining Span. Instead, what ends up happening? This guy goes, I've already hit him 45 white, I got this, and decides to crash pad onto Shxrk. Now, my keen viewers might have noticed this player has 0 builds and a singular gray DMR. And so when this guy lands on Shxrk's wall, Shxrk is able to immediately build it off and then pulls out a shotgun. Once this player sees this and hears the audio cue of the shotgun pulling out, he realizes something. He is not cut out for this. And so he immediately panics and he goes to crash pad away. Instead of gaining control of the majority of the loot in Shining Span and setting himself up for a strong endgame, he got a dopamine rush, saw a single kill, and tried to force it. Instead, Shxrk is now able to take that same crash pad and is now able to gain control over all of Shining Span. From here, he's going to get about as good loot as you can possibly get in a 30-second time span. Finds a blue chest, gets a purple revolver, gets some splashes, gets more splashes, and now is about as dripped as a human being can be. That is all because this player decided that he would rather try to key Shxrk instead of keeping control of his advantage. Now, Shxrk is going to be able to fight him. As soon as he gets that damage advantage, he's going to try to close the distance, make sure this player can't heal, quickly grabs the double edit. When he edits, he only hits for 30, hits a follow-up 50. So right now, both players are low. This player up here is about 30 HP, and Shxrk is 80 HP. But Shxrk is smart. What that means is he goes for this edit and then keeps trying to aggress. The reason why is because of how visualized audio works. Anyone within 275 meters of this fight, which is something akin to this, can see the audio and know that there is a fight here. And so if you are not having a very quick time to kill, ending your fights quickly, you are going to consistently find yourself being thirded in solos. So Shxrk knows this. Even though both players are one pump, he looks for an angle here, doesn't get it, and then immediately looks for another angle, and is able to get the kill there. If he had just taken his time, boxed, paused, splashed, popped minis, he would have increased his chance of winning the fight, but he would have also increased the chance of a team coming over and third-partying him. From here, the majority of his time is spent looting. But there is something I want to highlight about how he rotates when he's done looting. That is, whenever you're playing solos, you want to have your rotates dictated by loot. Because in solos, you are always going to just have a lot of players scattered around, you always run the risk of being shot at, right? I see all the time, whenever I'm going over gameplay with players or just VOD reviewing them, people get drained in solos. And so Shxrk knows this, and so he does something really, really interesting. His rotate isn't designed about the fastest way or the safest way. It's designed around finding more loot. So he rotates down here where there's chest spawns, then cuts up to the bridge where there's more chest spawns, zigs real quick to sewers, and then goes to the OXR base before finally coming up here and settling down in a bush. The key component of this is because the entire rotate, after he's done farming metal here, he is going to chest, floor spawns, places where he can find extra heals. Even if he does get tagged for 50, 60, takes damage on this rotate like he does right here, he's able to find heals later on in this rotate that he's able to use to keep himself at full HP without burning the very limited inventory slots he contains. So he glances at sewers, he glances at the OXR base, he glances up there, and so if he does get shot at any point along this rotate, because he has so many spots where he can recuperate and re-farm his heals, he is going to be able to recover this game. I think a very similar principle is true for duos as well. Because you have less inventory slots in duos and solos compared to trios, it's very important that if you are being milked for heals, you are able to recover. Now, this next fight is very, very interesting. This player hits a launch pad and flies directly by Shxrk, and Shxrk gets about as unlucky as a human being can be. 71, and we fry this player down to literally 4 HP. But what's interesting is how Shxrk approaches this fight. The key aspect about how Shxrk is trying to aggress this player is he knows this player is very low HP. So what is he trying to do? He's going to try as hard as he can to get on this player's wall and make him make a dumb edit. Even if this player makes a perfect optimal edit, as long as Shxrk has his shotgun out when this player makes his edit, Shxrk is going to be able to kill him. Notice how his crosshair consistently during this fight is on this player. He's just trying to bait out a bad pump. And then once the timer in his mind clicks, he goes, this player's healed a bunch. I haven't been able to get off any damage since. He's healthy. This fight's stalled. He's made so many boxes. He immediately goes to disengage. He does not drag this fight. He just goes to leave it, which is crucial because in just this area alone, we have 5 different players that can hear this visual and come over and third party this fight. If he does not disengage this, it is almost a guarantee his game would have been over. Cool little play here. After he crash pads away, he tries to just hide behind this rock in case the player tries to follow him. It doesn't work because he gets fried, but I still think the idea behind it is pretty cool. You're going to see this a lot of Shxrk in this game, by the way. Shxrk absolutely loves to just sit in brick cones and look for kills, look for refreshes, look for power plays. And he eventually does find one here. This is just a pretty bog standard crash pad play. He sees a player, says to himself, this guy doesn't look too aware, is able to crash pad onto her head, gets 100 damage off at the start of the fight as an advantage. And then because this player can't build walls here because of these little half walls in these Spider-Man in the Star Wars area, he's able to get this kill for free, which also ranks him up to B tier, getting him the mat refresh he needs. From there, once he gets the mat refresh he needs, the heal refresh he needs, the rest of this mid game is remarkably safe and passive for a player of Shxrk's mechanics and fighting caliber. You do not need to be taking a fight against every single thing you play. You do not need to fight every single player you see. All you need to do is just play smart, and it's very easy to do very well in solos. Doesn't rush, takes his time. Notice how he's constantly 360 around, making sure that he's not getting lurked up on, crept up on. And finds himself in a pretty good edge zone spot. Now, a lot of players would have tried to greed into pump power, but I think Shxrk here does the smart play. He doesn't have the best heals, and so if he does take damage, he's going to be forced to burn bigs, potentially multiple bigs, depending on how much damage he takes. So I think being safe here, just staying on this edge, is the smart move. Again, same thing. So on 4th zone and 5th zone, Shxrk is more than happy to just commit to an edge and doesn't really try to force himself into a better position, as he does not want to burn through the very limited heals he has. Now, I said before he loves these brick cones, and it comes into play again. He just loves to sit in brick cones, save his mats, and maybe generate a kill. On this zone, I think it's actually a very good play, because like the chance of a player walking into gas station to try and refarm or just scrounge extra heals is pretty good. Doesn't really get anything out of it this game, but he does save his mats because he only has to build a singular cone on this zone. So he goes for a crash pad play there. It doesn't work exactly how he wants it to. Something also to note, I noticed this in my Queasy VOD review, and I'm seeing Shxrk do it too, and the more and more I VOD review good teams, the more and more I see them do this specific crash pad. And that is going to be this diagonal crash pad. And the reason why is because it gives you the most horizontal momentum. That horizontal momentum allows you to B-hop further than you would just a traditional 2-tile cone edit or just wide editing going high. So because he does that diagonal cone edit, he's able to just fly on everyone's screen. No one's able to get damage off on him, and he's able to get in deep here. Now, this comes into play. I'm going to mark where he is because he does have an arrow in the replay system, but he's about here. I talk about all the time about controlling your own destiny, and because he gets deep here, late, he basically ensures that these players are not going to walk over and start aggressing him, and so it makes sure that he's not going to die on this zone in a very dumb way. So it kind of plays into this idea of controlling your own destiny, making sure on 6th, 7th, and 8th, if you can, that you are spaced away and playing safe, so you don't die in a very dumb way. Because he doesn't have Fizz, he needs to wait for a timing so he can look to run. Because if he uses a crash pad right now, that crash pad will not get him all the way into zone. Eventually, he sees that timing with enough players going crash padding and starts to rotate again. Because he doesn't have Fizz, he needs to go part of this zone on foot before he can crash pad. Nothing too crazy there. Just a very solid rotate, making sure not to rush it because he has to run there because he doesn't have a Fizz. Now, this play is really, really interesting. I think it's really, really cool. Shxrk is going to start just spamming this guy with his 2 shotguns. Now, Shxrk knows he's not going to kill this guy with his 2 shotguns, right? Him alone is not going to apply enough pressure to get this guy killed. But what he notices, this guy, just based off the shots he hears, based off the building, is getting fought. So if Shxrk starts to shoot at him, all of a sudden, other players are going to hear all that noise too. And so he's going to very quickly start to get lobbied. And so what ends up happening is this player starts to get lobbied, a couple other people spray, he starts to get fought in zone. And so while Shxrk isn't able to get this kill, he's still generating kill opportunities for himself just by being aware and shooting. This play took 0 risk for him, but still gave him the chance to find those free kills. So if you're ever in a lobby that's like pretty quiet and you're in full built metal and you have like an opportunity to just start like spraying a guy, you might want to take that opportunity to try and generate those free kill opportunities. Now, the end game is where the solo fundamentals of Shxrk really start to shine, and it starts with this rotate here off rip. Once again, we're going to do a diagonal crash pad, and when we do a diagonal crash pad, we immediately get over to a side to the best of our ability. Something that's very, very fundamentally good about how Shxrk plays is that he is very rarely in the middle of zone. The more middle you are, the greater chance you have of just getting aggroed while you're fighting or just aggroed while you're stationary. The more you are to his side, the less threats you have to assess, and it's just easier to play out your game without being just overstimulated by a million different things. Once again, the same diagonal crash pad. It does get a bit messy, but notice again, once he's able to get up and away from this big old cluster, he immediately cuts to a side and tries to just get to this big left open space of the zone. He is going to consistently do this, trying his best to get to a side. It is a good, strong fundamental you should have down. From here, he's just able to generate a free kill. He sees this player phase, which means one of two things is about to happen. Either he's about to sprint, run out of his box, or he's about to crash pad. He's able to get that free kill. Fizzes, crash pads. Glances up at height. It's important in these situations to look up at height because you want to make sure you understand where they are looking and where their blind spot is. Because if you were looking to, let's say, fizz and then just jump out of your box, knowing whether or not height can look at you is very important, as well as just the simple fact of if there is no height, you can just play it for free. Now, all VOD reviewing can only do so much. Sometimes you just have to be that guy and be just that good. And so right here, Shxrk's reaction times are that good. I'm just going to let this play before I really analyze it, because this play is crazy. Just the reaction times, just everything about it is crazy. So the key edit there was that one at the very end there. If you are ever in a situation where an opponent is on top of a ramp, doing that bottom 3 tile is the greatest edit you could ever do. It is an edit where only you can see them. I'm gonna slow it down. So right here when he does this 3 tile edit, he can very clearly see this guy's feet. But if we swap it over to this guy's POV, he can see literally nothing. He can't see a single bit of Shxrk's body. So if you're ever in a situation where you have a player sitting on top of a ramp, doing this 3 tile edit and then shooting their toes is the perfect way to approach that fight. Is able to eliminate that player. Once again, another player with a gold sentinel. Don't know how. Whenever Shxrk is stationary, he always likes to build this 2x2 to ensure he has space. That way, if he starts to get aggroed, he has somewhere to back up to, and he doesn't just die because he has no room to really make a play. From here, notice how once again we find ourselves fully to a side, this time being the right side of zone. Now, this is going to sound weird, but a lot of solos is just being the most disciplined player in the lobby. Because right now, Shxrk simply having mats gives him a win condition in this game. But if he starts to get reckless with his edits and starts to just edit on every single thing he sees, gets those dopamine rushes, doesn't take his time, that's how this game goes from winnable to losable. Let's just take a moment and just look at everyone in this lobby's match. So Shxrk is 500, this player 400, 6, 600, 9, 0, 16, 3, 6, 17, 1, 22, 25, 19, 0, 64, 3, 0, 8, 0, 22, 80, and then we're back to Shxrk. The majority of the players in this lobby at this point in the game have less than 10 builds. And so when you're in these deep endgame scenarios, if you get reckless with your edits, if you start rushing, editing on every single thing you can see, you're going to find yourself selling games. Almost every player in this lobby is max panic trying to create a play. And so the first priority is making sure you are safe, making sure you are taking things slow, taking your proper angles. Once again, we find ourselves all the way to the left side. Doesn't chase for that kill. When he goes out of that box, let me just go back real quick. When he goes out of that box, rather than just Eddie on that guy, pumping him, and then just tack sprinting forward, rush it, he takes his time, resets, builds another box, so he can really assess where things are, right? So we edit on this guy, and we rare miss. Hits him for 40. What a lot of players would have done in this situation is they see that open space to the left, and they just go, run, 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 run. Their instincts to get forward are just so strong that they don't have a thought process. But Shxrk, knowing he still has really good mats, and remember, we just went over, no one in this lobby has good mats, takes things slow. Instead of just fully rushing forward, he just makes another tile so he can like reload, assess, and figure out where things are, and actually take the time to make this rotate. Looks, he's able to see open space, actually make a real proper rotate, and is able to get in super, super safe, is able to do his classic 2-wide strategy. From that, is able to get a free kill. Should have maybe got another free kill here, but misses the shot. Now, things are kind of starting to get sketchy, right? We're down to 2 builds. We're in a position where we really need to get a kill if we want to win this game. We see this player, right? I feel like a lot of people would have just simply rushed this. They start editing before they give themselves the time to reload their shotgun, take a moment, and really, like, mentally prepare for this shot. They just rush, rush, rush. And so because Shxrk takes his time, takes a moment, make sure his shotgun's reloaded. Even though he's not able to get this kill, he has another kill opportunity on his floor in a second. Gets that kill. Able to slide back, gets that crazy pump, circles back. And then is able to clear out low. Let me just play that back one more time, just so we can really appreciate just the ability to control himself that he displays here. He could have very easily over-aggroed that player on the ramp. Then a player dies under his floor, and does he rush it? No. So right here, very easily, he could have not given himself the time to reload a shotgun, edited, started smacking, started doing something dumb, and risked dying here to try and get this kill. Instead, he takes his time. Then he hears players fighting underneath him. He does not insta-edit and just blindly drop down even though he hears a player die. He takes his time, takes a breather, and then is able to find a free kill that is far, far safer because he's not rushing. Almost is able to get a free kill into height. And then is able to wipe low. And just in the matter of about, what was that, 10 seconds? The game has gone from top 10 to top 4. All because of his discipline. He has now netted about an extra 15 placement points on top of just kills. And sadly misses his shot. But overall, even though he doesn't win this game, I think this game was about a good example as any when it comes to how you should be playing solos and the discipline that you should be putting into playing solos. When it comes down to it, solos is just about decisions. You control your own destiny, you make the decisions. And because that's something that is so important to solos, I think this game and just the examples consistently of Shxrk making time for himself so he can make proper, smart decisions is something you should all try to emulate in your own gameplay. And that if you really start to add that facet to your gameplay, you'll start to see a lot of benefits.